think so?
Hey, if I don't see you, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Who the hell lives that way?
Yeah.
So for any of you who'd like to just have a chair, I will wait a few minutes so that you want to take a seat. I'm happy to have you do that. So please. Plenty of chairs. Call this meeting to order. And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is wonderful, so I hope that all our meetings will get such a great turnout. Thank you everyone for coming out to the rain. I need a motion for a moderator for this town meeting.
I'd like to nominate Harlan Frederickson.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Frederickson?
Second to that.
Well, I guess you should have done that.
Santa Claus was here last weekend, if any of you are here waiting for that. Do we want to call a meeting? Meeting notice?
Yeah.
Okay. And I ask you to read that for me.
Sure.
Hi, Jim.
Legal notice provides Town of Haddam town meeting. All electors and citizens eligible to vote at town meetings in the Town of Haddam, Connecticut are warned and notified. The town meeting will be held on Wednesday, December 23rd, 2015 at 6 p.m. at Fire Station Number 1, 439 Saybrook Road, Hingham, Connecticut for the following purpose. Item 1. To vote to accept 0.31 acres of property located on the north side of Gunter Hill Road to be conveyed from Rogers Realty Company to the Town of Haddam for the purpose of providing additional road right-of-way. Item 2. To vote to accept 0.06 acres of property located on the southeast side of Park Road to be conveyed from Mark W. and Ray M. Brooks to the Town of Haddam for the purpose of road improvements, and permanent easement from Cheryl E. Chuba on Park Road for reconstruction. Item 3. To vote to approve the withdrawal of the Town of Haddam from the Chatham Health District. Dated in Haddam, Connecticut, the 17th day of December, 2015. Board of Selectmen. Liz Millardo, Robert Duvall, Sean Donnelly.
Just so we're all in agreement that that's what we're here for, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept that as the call of the meeting.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Are there any questions on that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You made the motion.
Oh, okay.
Bill,
Bill
thank you.
Bowles.
Yep.
Okay, first item of business is to, we'll handle each one of these as separate items. First item of business is to vote to accept 0.31 acres property located on the north side of Gunter Hill Road to be conveyed from Rogers Realty Company to the Town of Haddam. So I'd like to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, and then we'll open it for discussion, questions, and comments, and then we can vote afterwards. And I first ask Liz, the selectman, to put together and call the meeting. Do you have anything you want to give to us in regards to explanations as to what this is?
I'm going to refer to
Could I interrupt ever so briefly? We had a really big crowd and people were saying so moved and stuff. Somebody's got to stand up and tell me who you are, because I know know most everyone, but not everyone, and I can't tell you the voice motion. So who make a motion?
I moved it, Scott.
Okay, thank you. We're good, I got the second.
As a condition of renewal of the Brookline Forest subdivision at the end of Gunga Hill Road, the developer was required to make an emergency interconnection through the existing right-of-way extending from the end of Gunga Hill Road down to Schuler Road. That's a very narrow right-of-way. It varies in width from 20 to 50 feet as compared to the town standard of 50 feet. So in that regard, the developer was asked to convey at no cost to the town of Haddam additional property to allow for any future improvements to that section which has already been approved.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments before we vote on item number 1?
What's the payback to the developer?
What's the payback to the developer?
There is no compensation being paid to the developer for this property.
But doesn't that open up Schuler Road for development? I think there's going to be 2 small driveways that will come onto Schuler Road.
I don't know about any future development of Schuler Road, but as you're aware, Gunga Hill Road is about 1.3 miles in length. It's a dead-end road with some new subdivisions at the end, including the existing houses and the lots that have been improved. There's 120 houses on basically a 1.3-mile dead-end road. So as a condition of that approval, there was a gated emergency interconnection which would restrict through traffic on Schuler Road, which is of course a concern for those residents, but then allows for safety if there's any blockage in Gunga Hill Road, which apparently has occurred in the past, as far as I know. There are absolutely no plans.
It would require rebuilding Schuler Road. Because Schuler Road is too narrow. It was set up for horse and buggy days, and it's one-way traffic. You will have to have two-way traffic, so it would have to be widened. Poles would have to be moved, and the road would have to be widened.
There are absolutely no plans to make any further improvements beyond what has already been made for the emergency interconnection. There's been no discussion, no plans. It's
No
prudent
plans
for
right
future
now.
planning of the town. Pardon?
There's no plans right now, but there could be future plans.
If the town had decided sometime in the future that they
But
wanted
that
to,
affects everyone on Schuler Road. You open up the road right of passage between Gunga Hill and Schuler Road. Anyone on Schuler Road is going to be affected. All those property owners, they're going to lose property, and everything's going to change for them.
And you got that builder to put in that road because his road was too narrow for your new specs because he didn't have his taxes paid on.
I can't speak to anything about taxes
You can't?
paid or paid up.
Huh.
I have no idea. That's not my area of responsibility.
That's the reason why he did it for you folks.
Well, I'd ask you, please direct your comments or questions to me, and I'll aim them to somebody to get an answer.
Well, the reason the emergency road went in by that builder is because his road was too narrow and he was behind on his taxes. And that was the deal you people made to put in the emergency road with him.
I can't speak to what planning and zoning may have required, but from an engineering standpoint, in my original review, there was a recommendation to provide an emergency interconnection due to the fact that Gunga Hill Road is 1.3 miles long and has 120 houses and/or buildable lots. That was the reason.
Wasn't that kind of like people flying next to an airport and complaining about the noise? I mean,
There was no one that
They knew there was a 1.3-mile road and they put in the development anyway.
And there was a study done on that road and you people said it was fine when those people went up there. And you didn't give them 2 points of access to get out.
And we were also assured that that gate was going to remain across there and it would not become a thoroughfare. So I'm not understanding if you're going to make it a two-lane road.
There is no plans to make this a two-lane road. It's to accept property. Right now, the right-of-way is 20 foot to 50 foot in width.
Understood.
It's just for future consideration. There are absolutely no plans.
Just like they told us that we're putting the gate in, but we're not gonna have through traffic. It sounds to me like you wanna connect those two roads, and how else are you gonna do that but for widening the road and taking people's property?
There are no plans to do that.
What guarantees do we have that there will be no?
Can we have that in writing?
Then why do you need profit?
It's prudent for future planning. I mean, anytime you
Oh, but
look
there
at
is no
these things.
future plan, so how could we be future planning?
Because if the town ever want, that emergency access road now is narrow, it's steep, it has a sharp horizontal curve. If the town ever wanted to straighten that out and make it more accessible for emergency traffic, they would not be able to do so without acquiring additional property from the adjoining property owner. This was an opportunity for the town to obtain that additional property at no cost.
To do what?
To just have it there in reserve in case they ever wanted to use that.
Which will be when?
There are no plans, I can't tell
There's
you.
no plans now, but what happens in
There's been
your
no
plan?
plans, there's been no discussion. It would be up to a future board of selectmen, this board of selectmen, whoever, would have to go to a town meeting. I can't tell you even
Why
why.
bother with this whole
And the
thing?
thing was, is when we did go to the meeting the last time, it was, we were all told that the meeting was over, nothing was concluded. But as soon as every one of us that were objecting to the emergency access road coming down through, we all left because you said the meeting was over. And what happened? You went and passed it as soon as we all walked out of the building.
Correct. Wow. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
You see, the big
Are there-
problem
That
here-
was about
As
3 years ago.
If you want to talk, please,
This is
one at a
at
time, please.
and I live on it.
Ed, go ahead.
This whole problem was addressed at the beginning, when Rogers Realty wanted to put in the development. There was stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 was Brookside Development, which would tie in with stage 2, which was across the street. Now, they did the entire development, not the houses, but all the roads, and they left this last item to last to go across the street. So when they approached the wetlands, we sent a wetlands officer out, and he said, oh, you rode down, made a drive down to the road, which is there, you can see that and travel over it. And he had said, oh, you crossed wetlands. You didn't get a permit. So, the Wetlands Bureau said, well, we can't go along with that. We're not going to give you permission to cross the brook. But we are going to insist that you put down a retention pond at the end of the road to take the runoff down the road into that retention pond. Now, if the original plan had gone through, we wouldn't have all this about Schuler Road and widening Schuler Road. We'd have it all be taken care of by the developer. And the shifting price would not come on to the taxpayers. Because when this is finally resolved, if this does go through, the taxpayers will be paying more.
Additional questions or comments? Yes.
Yeah, the way it's explained to us at the fire department, that is going to be a gated access road. The only time that road will ever be open is if, like, let's say we have 25 trees down across Gunga Hill Road, and it's the only way we can get in or we can get out with fire department equipment or ambulances or even the town trucks. That's the way I understood it when they explained it down at the firehouse. So it does not sound like to me that this is ever going to be improved or anything, other than the fact that it can take, the apparatus that's got to get through there in case of a big emergency where we can't get through. That was the only thing that was told to us, and so.
Wasn't there a limitation?
Please, with Ed, do you have a question?
A statement more than a question.
Go ahead.
When they put that in, there was a limitation of 15 feet width, which would allow for emergency vehicles. But it would not allow for through traffic, because you have to have 20 feet.
I can't speak to that. All I can tell you is that the way it was explained is that we can get in and out with emergency equipment. And I mean, if, let's say the road's gonna be shut down for a week and a half or something, because we can't get the wires up off the ground, or there's trees all over the place, or whatever, and those people need to get in and out, I'm sure that, you know, it's gonna be like the old country road. Hey, you see your neighbor coming, you're gonna have to find a place to get over the side a little bit, and everybody kind of wiggles their way by, but I've never heard personally that we're gonna widen the road to meet all kinds of specifications. I'm just, I don't know, I can't speak to the road widths and all of that stuff, so. All I can tell you is what we were told at the fire department, what that road was strictly for emergency purposes. And that was it.
Any other questions or comments? Yes?
I'm wondering, what would the process be if the town ever did want to open it up to road traffic?
Liz, you want to or Liz, you might want to address that. What would the process be if the town wanted to?
I'm not entirely sure. The road, the dirt road right now that is between the end of Gungar Hill Road and Schuler Road is a town road and has historically been so. As I understand it, and Jeff, you can maybe correct me if I'm incorrect, the grade of the slope is significant. And so if it were to ever become a through road, of which there's no plans to do so, it would have to have some kind of switchback or alternative way to approach that hill, because the hill would be so steep. So there would be some engineering involved, certainly, to make it a road, and then to actually create the road. And then the process would be to dedicate funds to such a project, I'm not certain whether or not it would need to go to a town meeting, because it is in fact, this section is in fact a town road. So it would be a matter of widening or engineering or dedicating funding to that specifically.
The funding would have to go.
I
Yes.
think there's a little history of that. This was a switchback. When the colonial vehicles came up that road, they went to the right to rest their horses, and then proceeded up to get over the hill. So there was a switchback originally. And it was made specifically for the use of horse and buggies.
I just want to make a comment. The reason that I brought this to a town meeting was because I was told that when we had a storm, there was a tree down, and there was an ambulance that needed to get up Gungar Hill Road, and that they couldn't, because there was no other way to get through. So the reason that I felt it was important to bring this to a town meeting was simply for emergency vehicles to get through. And if we're going to appropriate, first of all, there's no plans for development now. It is a town road. But I also feel that there's many other roads that we're all driving, that we live on, that need a lot more work before the town of Haddam would go into approving or developing that road. So I wasn't here when all of that occurred, but my main reason of bringing this was truly, I mean, it's a safety issue. I don't want to have anybody be hurt, or a resident, a child, anyone, not be able to get emergency services and only have one way to get in. And if, God forbid, there's a storm, which would be when that time would arise, probably, I don't want that responsibility. I just want to know that our fire department can get in, or our ambulances can get in and take care of the person that needs help. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Can we move the question?
Sure, there's a motion to move the question, and I'm going to allow that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. If 2/3 of us vote to stop right now, then we're going to stop. That doesn't approve the motion. That just means we're not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to go ahead and vote on it. If 2/3 of us don't, then we'll continue with this discussion. So all in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Excuse me, I need a little clarification. So everybody's saying aye, they want to stop talking about this.
They want to stop talking and they want to go ahead and vote on the question.
And where does that leave the issue?
That leaves it approved or unapproved, to whatever the vote is.
So we don't have really the
We don't have
answers
the same-
to our questions or
Well, the reason I allowed that is because there's been a fairly lengthy discussion and this questions, quite frankly, seem to be kind of going in a circle.
Right,
So
and I've
that's
heard a
why-
lot of we can't speak to that, so you're asking for a vote without adequate information. Okay.
That would
I
be
just
your-
want to be clear.
That would be your opinion,
Thank you.
sure. Okay, so we have, a motion's been made to call the question, the motion is passed. So now we're going to vote on item number 1, which is the vote to accept the .31 acres. All in favor of item number 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I don't think there's any question that the ayes have it. So we're going to move on to the second item of business. Second item is the vote to accept .06 acres of property located on the southeast side of Park Road to be conveyed from Mark and Ray Brooks to the town of Haddam. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I'm sorry, your name?
Steve McKeever.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Wall. Yep. And,
Peter.
Mr. Jacobs, do you have comments on this one?
Sure, I can.
Okay.
Park Road and Park Road Extension have been targeted by the Board of Selectmen, actually going back to the middle 2000s for improvements. It's currently an unimproved gravel surface road. Park Road Extension is narrowly paved. Plans have been developed for reconstruction and improvement of this roadway. And one of the recommendations was to terminate a through road at the end, actually at the north end of Park Road where it intersects with Route 154, which is a substandard and dangerous intersection. That will have, again, an emergency interconnection similar to what we just talked about. That will be gated. There was a proposal to turn around the vehicles at the north end of Park Road by putting a hammerhead turnaround. That would allow vehicles traveling north on Park Road towards Town Hall to make a left-hand turn into a short paved area, back out to the right, and then go back out Park Road to the Park Road intersection. And to accommodate that, the hammerhead turnaround that I just mentioned would require going into property beyond the edge of the existing right-of-way. The town talked with Mark Brooks to see if he would be willing to convey property to the town to allow that hammerhead turnaround, which he agreed to do at no compensation to him.
Are there questions or comments on this side? Yeah.
My name is Jason Brown. I live at 46 Park Road. My question is there any hard data to suggest that north entrance really is dangerous? I've lived there for 20 years and never heard or seen of any accidents or challenges where right across the street at the post office and Town and Country Nursery, there have been accidents just pulling out at a time of 154. So I'm opposed to closing that end of the road. I'm not interested in it. There are drainage issues, and it's a narrow area. I prefer to just make it a one-way on from 154 onto Park Road. I think that would be fine, and it would leave it open for emergency access. Is there any data that shows that it is a dangerous intersection?
Want to speak to that? Yeah, my professional obligation as a professional engineer, anytime a major road improvement project is undertaken, is to advise the town of any deficiencies or any safety issues. Clearly, that intersection does not meet any of the town's design standards for intersections. It's steep, it's at a very acute angle, As you go up, you're kind of looking up in the air, you're looking back over your shoulder for the traffic that's going northbound on Route 154. So my recommendation was to close it.
So there is no hard data.
That is the hard data. It doesn't meet any
There's
current
never been
design
any
standards.
accidents there that we know of.
I don't know.
Well, by that logic, we should close quarry though, too.
Yes.
Well, I think if any reasonable person in the room here tried to go out the north side, tried to go out the north end of Park Road Extension, look over their shoulder, and try to safely get on the road, it's just, the town can do whatever they want. My obligation is to tell you when you have an unsafe condition, that is an unsafe condition.
Okay, and by closing the north end Park Road, we exceed our cul-de-sac regulations.
That's correct.
I pull out of that daily. It is challenging in that you have to turn your head and you certainly don't want to make a turn to head south on 154 from that exit. But to enter 154 to the north is, I have never had an issue with it.
All I can tell you is it doesn't comply with any type of design criteria at all. And that's my obligation to advise the town of that.
Just so to clarify, we're actually not voting on whether to make it one way or to close it. You're voting on the hammerhead turnaround, and even if you did make it one way, you would still want a hammerhead turnaround for any trucks or deliveries that would go to those last few houses. So technically, you're voting on the hammerhead turnaround, not closing the road. And I would definitely suggest keeping the discussion open with the Board of Selectmen, with the town engineer, and also with Public Works on those issues. But again, it's just for the turnaround.
Any other questions or comments?
Move the question.
I'm gonna entertain this one last question.
Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that an emergency gate be placed there. Does the print show that?
Yes, they do. They've been revised to do that.
Other questions or comments then? Bill?
But if I understand the issue that's presently before this body, it has nothing to do with the gate. It only has to do with the hammerhead. Is that correct?
It's the 0.06 acres of land that's needed to
Okay.
construct the hammerhead.
So just to follow up, then there is no gate at the moment. There's no present plans to put the gate at the moment. And that intersection is still, despite perhaps the recommendation, it's still a public intersection. And this gentleman, Mr. Brown, I believe his name is, could still come and go as he pleases, even after this vote. Is that correct?
Yes, right now there is no gate, there is no restriction on that intersection. If the road is constructed, the plans do show a gate. It does show an emergency interconnection, and it wouldn't allow a normal through traffic.
But we are not talking about the construction of the road.
No, we're not.
And we are not talking about putting up the gate. And those issues are probably within the purview of the Board of Selectmen, not necessarily a town meeting. Is that correct?
Yet if we accept the property, we're essentially accepting the closure of the road.
Or at least that option's open. We are just accepting, the vote tonight is just to accept the property. But
I understand. And I understand the implications of it too.
yes.
Why has it, as Mr. Waller pointed out, Quarry Hill Road, a young man got killed pulling out of Quarry Hill Road onto Jail Hill Road many years ago. I would refuse to use Quarry Hill Road going north. I'll go down south, but I won't ever use it. It's kind of a really bad memory. Why are we not just making these roads one way? How simple is that? One way.
Have to talk to Liz, do you have any?
I mean, there's one-way streets all over the world, right? We could have.
And I think that the town, so for the record, I'm Liz Glidden, I'm the town planner. I think the town could do a comprehensive safety examination of the roads. So far, that really hasn't been done. What triggered this was a paving project on Park Road. And Jeff, if I am correct, so that because it's being paved, that triggered you to look into the safety issues and everything, and that's what brought all of this to light.
I mean,
So,
it seems like we're jumping through hoops for no reason at all, when all you have to do is put a one-way sign up and we're done.
Yes.
What's the cost to the town of putting in the, we know? What's the cost to the town of putting in the hammerhead turnaround? Roughly?
The hammerhead turnaround is probably 50 feet by 20 foot paved section.
No, it's not, because if it goes through and you put, and we get the gate and we get everything, it's paving 50 feet of turnaround, it's installing the gate, and it's the rest of our lives paying the town crew to go down there every time it snows, open the gate, and so that we have access. So it's overtime to the Public Works Department. After the storm is done, go down there and clean up the mess, because we gotta have access. We promised the people there access. It's the same argument we just had on Gunter Hill, except in reverse. We wanna open Gunter Hill and close Park Road? I don't know.
What's the cost of 2 one-way signs?
Not much.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
Can we move the question?
I'm gonna not entertain that for just 1 minute, because we've had a fairly short discussion on this. Other questions or comments about item number 2?
Got a comment to make. Marty Wyatt, 58 Schuler Road. You have one of those lovely gates down at the bottom of my driveway. It's been stolen before. They had to redo it again with a pipe and a big sign hanging off the end of it that says stop. So all that money you spent on gates, somebody took both of them from both ends of that. And that's what you're planning on doing to these folks too.
I'm just refereeing the meeting.
I'm telling you what happens. That's what you did to us.
Other questions or comments from anyone? If not, then we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of item 2 to vote to accept the .06 acres, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I'll ask for a show of hands. That was, I think the ayes have it, but we'll make sure. So all in favor, please say, I'm going to ask Tony, would you please act as a teller and count? And Ray, would you be willing to as well? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? Okay, that passes. Item number 3 is to vote to approve the withdrawal of the town of Haddam from the Chatham Health District.
You missed, there's an item underneath the Mark and Ray Brooks thing about Cheryl Chuba. She has property on Park Road as well as an easement.
But that's all part of the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah, there's one item, is those 2 things.
Okay.
Separate property and
My mistake.
item 3 then is back to the Chatham Health District. The item of approving withdrawal. Liz, do you want to explain this exactly what that is all about, and then we'll ask for a motion.
So currently, we belong to the Chatham Health District, and we will continue to belong to the Chatham Health District until June 30th of 2016. If the town of Haddam is to consider to no longer be part of the Chatham Health District, we need to give notice to the Chatham Health District by December 31st of 2015 by a town meeting, which is why you're part of this meeting. So what I am requesting is permission or a town vote, because I need to know how the town feels about this, an opportunity to be able to write a letter to the board of the Chatham Health District, and let them know that the town of Haddam is looking at options and has an intent to withdraw from being part of that district for June 30th of 2016.
Okay. Do we have a motion to vote to approve the withdrawal from the Chatham Health District?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, you got it.
They got Jonathan Sibley, who's seconding? Sam?
Okay, I'll open that up for questions and comments.
Gail Reynolds, and I have two comments, professional and personal. The professional is I run the farmers market in Higginham, and this year the Chatham Health District imposed regulation on us, and it wasn't well explained to us at all. They charged the market $250, which we had to really scrape to come up with, and they were really hard to get in touch with. They never returned calls, they didn't explain forms. So this relates to, I'm in favor of withdrawing for that reason, and I'm sad to say that because I voted in favor of us joining them a few years ago because I thought it would save us money and services, but it hasn't really worked out. They scared away vendors from our market by just imposing regulations that aren't imposed, say, by Killingworth or Durham, where the same vendors go, and the vendors are fine. They don't have health issues. It was just that CHD decided to go above and beyond what the state health department requires. And personally, we had our septic system replaced this year. We found that Chatham was impossible to get in touch with. That we'd call them, and it would take weeks to return our call, and they'd say they'd come inspect, and they wouldn't show up. And it was just elongated, painful process to begin with. So I'm in favor of withdrawal.
Other comments?
Yeah, if we do withdraw that, do we still need some other form to handle that? What would that be?
So we are mandated to have that. So the state of Connecticut does mandate that we have a Department of Health. And I've been looking at other options for us, whether we join another district or we have our own health department in the town.
If we hand in that letter saying that it gets voted on to do that.
Yes,
And hand in the letter notifying that we're going to be dropping out.
yes,
And you don't find anything that's suitable.
Yes.
Does that mean we still have to drop out, or
we can still stay part of the district.
you can still change your mind?
Oh.
Twin brother.
Yes, twin, yes.
Recently, my son built a house next door and had Chatham Health District, had to deal with Chatham Health District for installing a septic system, and we found it very difficult to get in touch with them, to have them get back to us. We had records on file prior to the installation when they came out and they did the testing for the depot and the septic test, and they had lost the records. They were no longer in their records. A person left abruptly, and we had a part-time person that was shared with Killingworth come in. I think it was like 1.25 days a week, and she had problems finding the information. Even though I had copies of it in emails from the prior person that was there, she wouldn't take them into consideration, and it held up construction for like 2 weeks, which set us back considerably because we ended up in a rainy season to put the foundation in, which set us back almost a month. everything had fallen together on time as it should have, we wouldn't have a problem. So I'm definitely in favor of replacement.
All right, Liz, could you please explain the financial aspect? I know, and I go along with everything everybody said so far, but explain how much it's actually costing us and what it costs for permits, because that has increased substantially since their watch.
Okay, so right now the town pays into, to be part of the Chatham Health District, $78,000, I believe it's $840. I could be off by a very small amount of money. In addition, on average, over the past 3 years, Chatham Health District has taken in for fees that stay at Chatham Health, the town does not get part of these fees, about $16,000. So if you add the two of those together, we're paying, whether we're paying out or what they're collecting, Chatham Health is receiving about approximately $96,000 a year for the services that they provide. I met with the temporary interim director yesterday, along with Liz Good and the town planner, and Haddam is receiving 11.9% of the services that they provide.
Sorry, Liz, I am that
acting
director. You said that you are 11.6% of our population. You're receiving somewhere between 15 and 25% of the number of services.
Is that, Liz, is that it now? You're starting to investigate or pursue some temporary fill-in or a part-timer, so we'll be going down to probably a part-time because obviously we're not that busy anymore, that we need this full-time service. So you're pursuing that?
I'm not pursuing a temporary fix.
No, I mean
I'm pursuing a permanent fix.
Yeah, replacement.
And I've held a number of meetings and plan to.
Good.
Steve Bailey, Hidden Lake Road. I was looking at the December 15th special meeting. I'm kind of torn on this. I don't know much about the Chatham Health District, but it says that several residents had several questions, of which Millardo stated she would have more information and numbers at the town meeting. So I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more information available, because I think we're kind of blindly making a decision at this point. I know we can go back after 6 months. One of my questions is, how much notice do we have to give to get back into the district? Could we tell them June 20th?
Yeah, but I wouldn't, I mean, when I'm going to make the decision, I'm looking to have a final decision made. I'd like to honestly have it done no later than April 15th, because I don't think it makes sense to wait till the umpteenth hour to get everything together.
Sure. Some of the research I did very quickly, it looks like Chester and Middlefield share sanitarian. Middlefield budget's about $120,000 for it. Durham appears to have a full-time health department. They pay a salary of $81,000. That doesn't include benefits. Killingworth, who probably would be the logical choice to partner with if we go down that road, budgeted about $50,000 for their sanitarian and public health. That doesn't include fringe benefits of probably about 20%. Essex has a .875 FTE. They pay about $104,000 for their sanitarian, or their health department, I should say, and about $10,000 for a sanitarian to go around. Westbrook has a director of health at about $135,000. So I was looking at Munster's article. He mentioned some of these towns. So it sounds like Chester and Middlefield already work together. So I don't know if they would want a third wheel. It sounds like Killingworth would be the logistic choice. I did some more research. Funny thing, in 2011, I don't know if you talked to the first selectman, in Killingworth. In 2011, they had a very large meeting about joining the Chatham Health District that they decided not to, and they've gone with their own sanitarian. So I would just make sure if we do go with Killingworth that they're still committed to doing their own thing. There's also 7 other towns in the Chatham Health District. There's 11.7 full-time equivalents in the district. They have 7 sanitarians and 1 nurse. Some of my questions is, have any other towns looked to leave any time recently? I couldn't really find anything. Is Portland or East Hampton, anyone having discussions to leave before the end of the year?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we had a board meeting and I made our choice aware that we were going to have a town meeting. And I think each of those towns need to make those decisions for themselves.
Right.
I have spoken to Kathy Eno in Killingworth, and I actually have met with the Director of Health in Killingworth also.
Thank you. I actually have a few more questions. We have a public health department here.
What, let me get
Sure,
a couple
come back.
other people, and if
Yep.
there's still time, we'll
I don't want to
circle
take the whole
back, okay?
conversation.
Yes.
So is it my understanding that if we hire our own person, have our own in-house public health person,
those fees, that $16,000, which as we know, building is at an all-time low, but those $16,000 would go into the town of Haddam's pocket, not into the pocket of a subcontractor.
Of a health district, yes.
And my second question is, I understand what you're saying about having, hooking up with another town to do this. It seems that there's enough towns around us who have done it. According to the Middletown Press article, that the Chatham Public Health is bankrupt. They don't have any money to support themselves, and that they were looking to the town of East Haddam to fund their coffers just to meet their salary. East Hampton, thank you, East Hampton, to fund their salaries. Do you know anything about this? Is it true?
I actually have received an email from the interim director of the Chatham Public Health, not the interim director, I apologize, the board, from the board of directors, not the interim health director, a week ago, and stating that East Hampton had repaid itself. Now you have to understand, no fees were taken back. East Hampton has been acting as a bank for Chatham Health since its inception, as I've been told. And there was $138,000 that the town of East Hampton had forwarded to Chatham Health in order to support to pay bills. And I received an email stating that due to East Hampton paying itself back the $138,000, which is their money, they don't want to be the bank any longer, but there was $10,000 available in the account in order to make payroll, and that we were asked that our payments that were due to Chatham Health for January for the next quarter, if we could make them sooner than later. There also is an issue where the state of Connecticut, DPH, held back on per capita grant money that needs to go to Chatham Health due to an issue with the previous director of health. As of yesterday or the day before, half of those funds were released. I believe that was about $38,000. So that is what I can tell you of what I know.
So it seems to me that this is obviously not a very well-run business to begin with. And why would we want to connect ourselves with somebody who loses money?
Harlan, I'd like to suggest that Don Mitchell, the acting director, actually speak, because I think he'll answer a lot of questions if you feel.
Why?
Yeah, we'll other questions and comments? Yeah. I think Bill's done.
I think the question on the table
Haven't
here
spoken yet.
is a service we're getting. There's what, close to $80,000 that the town puts in, and with fees, the sum total being about $97,000. And just about every business person I know, to include myself, has had some pretty ugly experiences with them, and people not getting any service. So if we're arguing that we're going to pay maybe $104,000 for a sanitarian, or it might be a little bit more, but at least we'll be getting what we pay for. We're not getting what we pay for.
Cheryl Haas, and I'm a member of the Board of Finance. I also have worked in the health department for many, many years. I actually worked for the town of Essex. I was a big supporter of joining the health district. Tony Bondi and I had many arguments. At that point, I think the town of Haddam was in a very different place where we were using Tamel.
Bob Tamel.
I think it's very important. I think I hear what people are saying about the customer service issue. I think that's a big issue because that is what people see when you approach a health district or a health department or any government service. It's customer service. I just want people, I think obviously it warrants public hearings. I think we need to also look at that financial impact. I think we stand in a good position with Thad, the past director, stepping down, that the district is in a position to hire a new health director. Those are discussions that obviously the board with all those other towns, I hope they're going to look at that. I don't think there's anything fraudulent happening within the district. I mean, they are audited, just like every other state agency that are overseeing Towns very often in districts will choose a town within that district to sort of manage or oversee those accounting practices. Public health is a broader thing or a broader aspect other than just food service and septic systems. Obviously, that's what we see. There's a lot more that happens and is very costly to the town if we come as to a standalone health department. There's the emergency planning services that need to occur with that. Communicable diseases, these are things that you and I don't see, that are private conversations that happen between a health director and the public. Daycare inspections, follow-up cases. A lot of these things require a phone call within 16 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. When you start to share services with towns, I get very nervous about double dipping. Pick up the paper, you see it every day. I'm not saying that they're not cost effective. I'm saying that we need to be very cautious moving forward in taking those types of actions when you start to share health records, and you start to share sanitarians. So I just want to sort of, there's more to public health than your restaurant inspection. And I hope that there will be a lot of options presented, as were when we first had that option to join the district.
Jim?
I'm Jim McCutcheon from Haddam. I speak partly from my years of experience being married to the president of Haddam Fair. That required a lot of services. The services we've gotten from the town, by and large, over the years have been quite good. It was a step down when we started having to deal with the Child Health District. This is all second half. I've heard some of it. Personally, I object to getting a bill sent to a resident for 35 bucks, charging me for a fee for having my own septic tank pumped, which I've done regularly since we've lived. Bullshit. Which I paid for, it cost my own money. There's no value received, and I don't know who resident is, so the bill never got paid.
Yes.
All I just want to point out is that we're voting on an option. We're not voting on that we're getting the hell out, we're getting out, but we are providing ourselves with an option. I like options, so that rather than waiting is another year before we can do this again.
Correct.
So that if for no other reason, perhaps if Chatham miracles happen and it turns into the model agency we all like to deal with, so be it. But if it doesn't, we're in for another year. All I'm saying, we're voting on an option.
Ray?
Hi, my name is Ray Lockton. I used to be the owner of Swingers Marketplace. It's changed name since then. It's on a corner of Route 81 rather, and Route 154 in Tylerville. I had a laundromat in that particular shopping center, and I got involved with the Chatham Health District, and either the town, between them and the town, they completely shut that laundromat down. And they removed laundromats from being, any laundromats from being established in the town of Haddam. And we're a pretty high-paying town. You know, we got people that rent apartments. They need a laundromat. So they either have to go to Deep River or they have to go to Middletown to get to a laundromat. I think it's pretty bad when we have a town that can't have a laundromat in it. Today, with super septic systems being developed, and what I mean by that, They have no engineered septic systems. I feel that involving someone like the Haddam Health District to come in and give you approval to put in a laundromat is almost impossible. And I would seriously look at. I think it's important that we look at reestablishing laundromats in town. I have nothing to do with the shopping center, by the way, anymore. I sold it, so I'm not here speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the town, and I think, and I feel that this town, as a town, at least needs one laundromat, and we don't have it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Nethersbaugh. My wife and I own the Nehemiah Brainerd House Bed and Breakfast on Saybrook Road. When we put the B&B in, we were given a pretty rough time by the Chatham Health. And he was literally rude, nasty, ignorant of the regulations, told us a whole raft of things that we needed to do in order to open the B&B, which I found ridiculous. Went and did my own research, found out that every single thing he told us, bar none, was wrong. Went back to him, and he wasn't very receptive of what I told him, but agreed to do his own research, and then concluded that he was wrong. And we didn't have to do any of those things. So aside from holding up the launch of our business, he was nasty, which he didn't have to be, and he was just totally ignorant of what even the regulations were. So, to be paying this kind of money to an agency that doesn't even know what they're regulating, I find outrageous.
Yes. Yes.
Lori Maggi. My husband is a participant in the Haddam Lions, and they do a lot of charity events where they cook and fundraising, and their money goes back into our community. Chatham Health has been horrible working with them. So that, and then also personally, we also have had problems with them with our septic issues. Also, I was at the chamber meeting, 17th of December, and at a bridge meeting. And I do believe, speaking to your question, are other towns entertaining the idea of pulling out? And yes, I believe East Haddam is entertaining it as well.
I would just like to make a very quick comment. I haven't had much to do with Chatham Health, so I don't have a super opinion of yes or no, but sitting here, I haven't heard one positive comment about Chatham Health. I would like to direct to Harvard. Right. If someone has something positive to say, let's hear it. Otherwise, let's vote.
Oh, there he is.
I will open it up to that one positive comment if it's.
The interim director.
I'm on the job a week now, guys.